Hey friends, if you didn't already know, I have a thing for blueberries. How about you? I think it's because they're kind of simple. It's like a repetitive shape and they just are just easy to look good. So let's get this started now. Grab whatever watercolors you have. I'm not even going to tell you what set I'm using because honestly, it's a weirdo set and it's going to be hard to find anyway. So grab what you love. I'm doing pastel blueberries. So kind of like the ones that you see in the photos that you know they've been like over edited and they're not real. Yeah, I'm making those. And I'm just creating circles. And while the circles are wet, I'm adding different colors. So yes, I did just add blue and then kind of a peachy red on top. And look at that. It looks really cool. Now, by the way, I am using the cat's tongue from my Art for Joy's Sake brush collection. I like the control I have with the cat's tongue in this particular scenario. So I can easily, with the tip kind of facing down towards the page, not quite perfectly perpendicular, but almost perpendicular, I can make the most beautiful controlled small round shapes. If I angle my brush a little less, I can make bigger round shapes kind of with the side of the brush. So I'm really loving this brush for this application. Okay, you don't need to press hard and watch how my brush is moving. I'm just going around and around and around until the shape is full. And as I do that, the way that the watercolor hits the page changes. So some of the watercolor and the pigment is soaking in more than other areas. So I'm creating kind of natural highlights and shadows as I go without trying too hard. Notice I'm also leaving in a lot of these blueberries. I mean, they're just kind of circles right now, but in a lot of the centers or a little bit off center, I'm leaving white space. And that's just because I'm thinking ahead to adding more detail as we go. Now you might have also noticed I am purposely letting these round shapes, the blueberries, kind of bump into one another while they're wet. And the point behind that is really just effect. I love when one blueberry bumps into the next and whatever color was happening in the one blueberry starts to happen a little bit into the next. And it just creates a really cool watercolor flow that when everything's dry, it just is dreamy and beautiful. So you may have noticed I've been adding some leaves, and that is my classic technique of press, drag, and lift. And it makes light work of creating just really beautiful but simple leaves. So let's see here, grab a color and press, drag, and lift. Press, drag, and lift. And you can do it in both directions. And then when you've got the basic shape down after your press, drag, and lift, you can refine, fill in, add more water. All right, back to the blueberries. Oh, look at this gorgeous peachy color. This is kind of almost like a Naples yellow if you have a Naples yellow, or mix whatever yellow you have with a little bit of white and then add a little bit of red to it. And you're going to have this gorgeous yellowy kind of like peachy nectarine color. I love it so much. And then I'm just moving on a little bit of a kind of a dusty purple. And one thing to keep in mind in terms of composition is just to continue to vary the size of your blueberries. These are very simple blueberries. I'm not going to be going in with a lot of detail, but to keep things looking interesting from a compositional point of view, that is, you just want to vary the shapes a little bit and sizes. So don't be chasing after perfect circles. You know me and perfect. We don't go together too well. And make sure, like, see those bottom two, like, circles there, they're too similar in size. I really should have made one of those bigger. And you can refine that shape. And there you go. See, make it a little bit bigger. It's just that much more interesting. So keep those shapes varied. Remember, the wet page, friends, is an opportunity. I say it all the time. So as you're working through this composition, now mine is about a 5x7. This is small. And I love that little hack when it comes to painting and overwhelm. And, if you're someone that's constantly battling with perfectionism, paint smaller, especially when you only have a little pocket of time to paint. Just go smaller. But back to my point, when the page is wet, you have all the opportunity in the world. So when those blueberries are still wet or damp, just continue dropping in additional color, little accents. So if you got a blue blueberry, you could drop in a little green. You could drop in a little pink. You could drop in a little purple. Into my purple blueberries, I dropped in a little peach. So have fun with this. There truly are no rules when it comes to how you let color play. And the thing about color, when you see those paintings, whoever may have painted them, that just seem to sing with the excitement of the color going on, it's because that artist took some risks. So they didn't stay in their lane. They didn't keep all the greens together, all the blues together. No, they mixed it up. I am still using my cat's tongue with that press, drag, there it is, press, drag, and lift. If you drag your brush longer, you're going to get a longer leaf. And if you repeat this twice and kind of mirror one brush stroke after the other, you're going to get a wider leaf. So just think of press, drag, and lift. The longer you drag, the longer your leaf. The shorter you drag, the shorter your leaf. Another little hack when you're painting and you don't have a lot of time is to limit yourself to one brush. Choose a small piece of paper and one brush and stick with it. That way you're not overwhelmed by what brush should I use now? And oh my gosh, I have to fill this big piece of paper so that I'm quote unquote finished. You don't have to worry about any of that. I love those kind of challenges. And that kind of mindset, that kind of approach with when you only have so much time to sit down and paint, let's say you have 20 minutes. When you limit your materials, you limit the variety of materials you use, whether it be color, the size of the paper, or the variety of brushes, you're also limiting all of that noise, all of that chatter in your brain. You're going to have less of that because you're going to simply have less decisions to make. Now I am starting to go in with darker blues just to get a little contrast going. I'm not going to go crazy. And remember those little areas of white space that I left in most of these blueberries in the middle. I am now kind of accenting those areas of white space with a little bit of that darker blue. And I'm still using the cat's tongue, friends. When I'm going into the centers of these blueberries, I'm using more of the tip of the cat's tongue brush. But when I'm going in to make the bigger round shape, I'm kind of using more of the side or the width of the brush. Hey friends, if you're still with me, I thank you so much. I'd love it if you gave this video a boop, and that just means a like. And if you're having fun, let everyone know by giving a like. And that lets the YouTube algorithm gods know that more people should have a looky-loo. So thank you. Just a reminder too, that you should always be complimenting yourself as you go. Find little things that you love, like, oh gosh, I love that little tiny circle that I added there. It's a little different than all of the center marks that I've been making to this point. Remind yourself to be kind to yourself. I always like to remind you. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're going to want to watch this video, because in this video, I talk a lot about ways that you can develop a mindset, a habit of being kind to yourself. So have a look. All right, I'm finally switching up my brush. I've got my liner brush. This is the Remember Joy brush from the Art for Joy's Sake collection. And I'm adding little veins to my leaves. I'm using basically just a dark color. So mix up some greens, a little bit of red, some blue, some purple. Whatever you have on your palette will do. You want to make sure you have a nice balance of pigment to water. If you feel like your brush is kind of dragging and you're not getting that flow out of your liner brush, you just want to dab on a little bit more. Dip your brush. Don't rinse it, but dip it, paint and all, little tip of it into the water, and you're going to get a nicer flow of line. Trust me. Now remember, this brush is really sensitive to pressure. So light pressure if you want those super thin, graceful, wispy lines like I'm creating now, following the contours of the shape of the leaf. So kind of think of like a topographical map where all those lines kind of undulate and follow the shape of the land. That's kind of what you're doing. When you press harder with this brush, you're going to notice a lot thicker of a line, a lot quicker and easier. So it's kind of like when you're in a car and that brake pedal is super sensitive. Well, that's how this brush is. It's a lot more sensitive to the change in the pressure that you add to it. And remember, there is absolutely nothing wrong with taking a few moments to warm up with a new brush before you dive back into your painting with it. If you want some really awesome ways to warm up with your brush, you want to know kind of what that looks like, you're going to want to watch this video. It's all about filling a page with as many different types of brush strokes as you can with one brush. It's a good one to watch. And friends, if you haven't subscribed yet, I would love if you did. I upload twice a week and we have such fun here, and I really don't want you to miss out. All right, now I'm going to speed things up a little bit and just remind you of a few things. With adding this line work, remember, vary the weight of your lines. It's going to keep things interesting. Another thing that I love to do is to not necessarily detail every single leaf or detail every single leaf in the same way. So there are times when I just want to go at it. I want every leaf to have some detailing, some veins, but I have to remind myself, once I kind of get the knack of creating these wispy, graceful lines that I love so much, I have to be careful not to repeat them again and again and again and again. So just, variety is the spice of painting. Just something to keep in mind. All right, this was a blast, friends. And if you like this kind of super loose and casual watercolor, you're going to want to watch this one next. Happy painting.